So for step 24, attaching the rear dampers. Well, we've got quite a few pieces for this step, strangely enough. So we've got B1. So these are two plastic pieces off the soft parts tree, and then we've got two of the D3, which are coming off the blue parts tree. So there they are there, along with our shocks. And then, of course, we've got all of our screws, the flange nuts, and the damper collars that need to go on both the top and the bottom. So I'll set this up and we'll put them on. So I think what we'll do is let's do the bottom first. So you can see that the way this is going to go, we're going to grab one of the screws. It's going to go in through the bottom, which you can do this. In fact, I'm going to see how there's a gap there. I kind of I don't actually want to see that. So we're going to have that on the out or on the inside. So that's going to go in there. We're going to have a damper collar that's going to go on the inside. So just like that. Then there's a D3 piece, which is the blue bit. That's going to go on that side. Then it's going to go into the outer hole. So it's got to go into the outer hole, and the flange nut is on the other side. So I'm actually going to turn this over because it'll be easier to get that on from there. And I can actually turn that. And then we'll use our screwdriver here to actually tighten it up. Which actually feels pretty good. There we go. So there is the bottom of the shock in place. Now on the top, you can see that it's going to go into that hole there, which is that one right there. So again, what do we need to do? We're going to take our collar and a screw. So we've got our screw going through the top. We've got a collar coming in from the other side. So that's how that's going to sit. And now there's a black B1 piece that's going to go in there first. And then it's going to go through the hole. All the way. There we go. And into the flange nut on the other side. Now, if you can see that, I'm going to hold that there and spin that all the way back. And really, this should just spin on a little bit. I'm just going to take a quick look at this before I go any farther, and I'll come back. So I solved it. You will need to use something else to hold the flange nut because it wasn't actually pulling in. So what I did was I grabbed the needle nose pliers and did it that way, and then I could tighten it up. It doesn't want to tighten on itself like a lot of the other ones did in the kit. So you'll need to have something to grip that as you do it. And you'll notice now the screw's not moving around. It's exactly how it should be. And you can see there is quite a bit of suspension travel on this. Very, very cool. So let's work on the other side now. So we know that we've got a screw going through there. We've got our damper collar going into there. We've got the blue D3 piece going onto there, and it's going into the outer hole on this side, just like that. And we also know that we're going to have a flange nut on the other side, just like that. And I can spin that pretty much all the way on. Now this one does grip, so once we tighten this up, it'll be exactly where we want it to be. There we go. So we've got the bottom on, now we got to do the top. So again, we're going to stick the screw through the hole, put the damper collar on, get it through there. Now we have the B1 piece that's going to slide over top of that. Then we're going to have to compress this to get it through into the hole on the other side. And we've got the flange nut going on that end of the screw, which I've got it on, and we can spin it. But I think what we're going to find is it's going to do the exact same thing, where we're going to need to hold the flange nut with a screwdriver to be able to get it in all the way. Yeah, I can already tell. So this is what we did, or what I did with the last one, is I'm gonna have to hold the flange nut just like that, and now turn this and screw it all the way in. We go. So there is our rear end completely finished and built. Very, very cool. And again, that suspension travel is fantastic. Awesome. So that's step 24 complete. So now we're going to move on to step 25 and attach the front damper. So for step 25, attaching the front damper, well, you can see it's pretty similar. We've got the screw, we've got the damper collar, and then a flange nut on the other side. And it's just a matter of sticking it onto the front here. But you'll notice that in this step, this is where they are talking about those pieces I was talking about way back in 23. But I'm not going to add any of them. This shock itself seems to be fairly tight already, and I don't know how that's going to apply once it's attached to the chassis. So I'm going to not add these. You can see here, it looks like in the diagram they've added two. They've added the 6 and the 7 to adjust the tension, but I kind of like the tension that's on this right now. It's a little softer. So I'll see what it's like when we put it on. So there are the screws, the flange nuts, and the damper collars. And let's get this onto the chassis. So it's really not going to matter which way we do this, but I'm going to start on this side first. So I'm going to put in our screw. We're going to put in our damper collar, just like that. And then that's going to go into that hole there, on, which is fine. And then we have a flange nut on the other side. Now, because of how this is, I may have to just make sure that my finger and the suspension is as much down as possible, because you see how the stabilizer bar actually interferes with that. So I'm going to pull this down as much as possible so I can get the flange nut on there, I hope. Okay, might do it differently. I think in this case, just because of the way this is, I'm going to need to put the flange nut on. And then, in fact, I can do it this way so that my finger's there while I tighten it from this side. Yep. So let's just tighten that down. That feels about right. So now we can do the other side. Now again, notice that piece, I want the opening away from the front, so you're not seeing that. But we're going to need to put in our screw, put in our damper collar, and again we need to put in our flange nut, which you can see is going to fit inside of there because that's got an open hole. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to pop it into there. Then I will hold my finger behind it. I hope, yes. Let's turn this around. And that all came out, but that's okay. Just need to make sure that it stays exactly where I want it. Here, it's getting difficult. Let's do this. This. Hold the flange nut there. Pull. And grab our screwdriver. Yeah, see, it still wants to move. This side didn't, so I'm going to see if I can use the pliers a little bit. Yep. And screw it in the rest of the way. There we go. So there we go. There is the front shock on. And again, there's a fair bit of suspension travel even on the front here. Very cool. So that means step 25 is complete. So we'll put that aside because now we're going to be moving on to bag C, and we're going to be checking the RC equipment.